Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. So today I will be ranking Harry Potter characters on TierMaker. So if you didn't already know, Harry Potter is by far my favourite book and movie series. And yeah, if you're a die-hard Potterhead, then yeah, this is the type of video for you. So yeah, let's get into the video. Okay, so I'll be doing it in order. So let's start off with Mad Eye. So look, if it would be easier to rank if he wasn't locked up and was able to teach defense against the dark arts during Harry, Ron, and Hermione's 4th year. So, and not been undercover, and not having Barty Crouch Jr. under the Polyjuice potion, and so yeah, I reckon if he could have been the professor in his 4th year, he would be easy to rank. But from what we know about him, at least he was trying to capture Death Eaters, and wasn't actually bad. But from what we know about him, he at least he was trying to capture Death Eaters. So I'd say B or C, probably C. Actually not B. Yeah. Now next up we have Dumbledore. Now the reason he looks different in this picture in the first and second movies compared to the 3rd to 8th movie is because I had to replace him since the original actor died 2 years before The Prisoner of Azkaban. Just thought I'd say that. But yeah, look, the issue with Dumbledore is that he was definitely good in some ways, but he was definitely a dodgy character, with his personality, so I'd put him in C. Now next up we have Filch. Now Filch, I really don't like Filch. I do know he's a squib, but since he wasn't actually like a wizard, he should never have been allowed as what was it again? The groundskeeper or something? I can't remember. Yeah, and anyway, he was just a git in general, so I'd say he'd be in D. He was quite cruel, to be honest. Next up, we have Arthur Weasley. S tier, I'd say. S or A, I'd say. Probably S tier. He was probably one of the most charismatic characters in the whole series. And he didn't, he at least had some sort of thing about him that would be at least he actually had a purpose in the story with his personality. Okay, next up Barty Crouch Jr. Not Junior, Senior, sorry. Junior's next. Look, I'd probably put him in low B or high C. I'd put him in low B. He was good, but not great. Yeah, he forgot Percy's last name when at the Quidditch World Cup at the start of the Goblet of Fire. Even though he was his boss, but at least that was memeable. And the problem was Percy was obsessed with him, so he really didn't do anything, especially since his aunt, which was Barty Crouch Jr., murdered him during the Goblet of Fire, which brings me to Barty Crouch Jr. Now, the thing is with him, yes, he was a Death Eater. Yes, he killed his own father. Yes, he was under the Polyjuice Potion and being a fake Mad Eye Moody, but like, at least when he was being undercover as Moody, he actually taught them stuff. So I'd put him below Filch, but yeah, at least he actually taught them stuff. Alright, so next up we have Bellatrix Lestrange. She'd be definitely F. Like, she was just a cruel idiot who was just a murderer, pretty much. Nothing else to say. Okay, next up is Cedric Diggory. Honestly, I'd put him in A because, like if he wasn't murdered during the third task in the Triwizard Tournament during the Goblet of Fire, he would have been like, he could have been a great character. But then, of course, Wormtail and Voldemort had to kill him. Now, you know what? I probably will just get Voldemort out of the way. Look, he'd be D or F in my opinion. Like, at least he actually had... Look, he'd be D or F in my opinion, because, like, at least he actually had some purpose in the story, so... I'd say low D. No, I'd say high F. No, he'd be below Bellatrix, but at least he was actually good. At least, no, not good. At least he actually had a place in the story. Okay, next. Yeah, we did Cedric. So next we have Cho Chang. Low C, I'd say. She was a real whine. She was really whiny in the Goblet, and not in the Order of the Phoenix. Goodbye, end of story. The end. Next up, Dobby. Look, controversial, but I'd put him in A. Like, I mean, he didn't really do anything. Okay, next, Umbridge. This is tough. Would she be below Voldemort or worse than Voldemort? I'd say yes, because, like, at least Voldemort was just horrible and a cruel monster in general, whereas Umbridge, she showed herself, like, as a nice person, but she really wasn't. So yeah, and she made Harry write "I must not tell lies" and scarred it into his hand for lines when he got an unfair detention twice, and she took Quidditch away from him permanently while she was at the school. She took over from Dumbledore. She was High Inquisitor, made stupid rules, and became headmistress. And yeah, anyway, next, Malfoy. Well, nah, he was a cruel and vile git. No denying it, but he at least was somewhat had a place in the story. So yeah, Fleur Delacour, like, where would you rank it? C? Yeah, didn't do much for me. Fred and George Weasley, above their father. They were a comedic duo. It was so depressing, and when it was so tragic when Fred died in the Battle of Hogwarts in the Deathly Hallows. So yeah, they were just a comedic duo. They were just all-round respectable characters. Gilderoy Lockhart, I'd say high F. Like, I mean, he was a fraudulent git who he was a fraud. Nearly all of the Wizarding World's females and girls had massive crushes on him, and yeah. And he was just a fraudulent git who knew nothing about Defense Against the Dark Arts when teaching the Golden Trio in their second year. So yeah, now Ginny Weasley, I'd say A, above Cedric. But yeah, like she was just so charismatic, which is something you don't really get from a character from a book character. Not that. Well, okay. Anyway, Harry Potter. Look, he's the main character. He was the boy who lived. Look, I'd put him first. Yeah, I'll put him as the best character in the whole series. But he did have a lot of flaws about him. Him and Ron, who I'll rank later, him and Ron they could be awful friends to Hermione, and they were horrible, and I repeat, horrible Yule Ball dates in the Goblet of Fire. They got into a fight and stopped talking to each other for like 3 weeks or something, somewhere around that, in both the Goblet of Fire and the Deathly Hallows. He was just, and he could be quite arrogant as well, and yeah. And next up we have Hermione. I'd probably put her. Should I put her above Fred and George or below Fred and George? That's tough. I'll reshuffle at the end if necessary. I'll put her above them simply because she was she was like one of the protagonists. Like, sure, she was a rule follower and she was a massive nerd at Hogwarts, but she actually did stuff for the series. Next up, Lucius Malfoy. Probably below. Should I put him below Bellatrix or not? Yeah, I'll put him below her. It's clear Malfoy would be a jerk if his father was Lucius. I searched it up, and in Muggle Money, which if you're not a fan of or don't read Harry Potter or not diehard fan and you don't know, Muggles are non-wizard people like us, like what we are, but he was a Muggle hater, and also since Hermione was a Muggle born, he called her one of the most Draco called her one of the most appalling wizard names to slurs in the wizarding world, which is a mudblood. And to show you how bad it is, Lucius said this as well, but to prove how bad it is, it's practically the N-word equivalent in the wizarding world, so it's just an appalling term to use. But yeah, and the thing is, I was going to mention about Lucius is that, I searched it up, and in Muggle Money, he would be a billionaire. And yeah, and which is just appalling how he acts over it. Anyway, next up, Luna. I think that's Luna. Yeah, low C. She was quite annoying a lot. Next, okay, McGonagall. Look, I'll put her low. I'll put her low A. She was a good head of Gryffindor and deputy headmistress and all, but she was overly strict in my opinion. Next, Molly Weasley, probably low A. I'm not low A, low S. She was nice to Harry and all, but at least, but she definitely didn't treat Ron, Fred, and George properly. Okay, next, Neville. I'll put him above Cedric and Genie, because at least he stood up to Voldemort in the Deathly Hallows during the Battle of Hogwarts, which is something he wouldn't have done during a majority of the series. So yeah, I'll leave Ron and Percy for the last two. So next, Lupin. Lupin was undoubtedly the best defense against the dark arts teacher they had. They had him in their third year, and he made it so much better and easier for Harry, especially considering the Dementors were after him or looking for serious areas, which I will rank next. Sirius, he shouldn't have died at the end of the Order of the Phoenix. I'll give him. I'll put him below Fred and George, but above Arthur Weasley, because he was a great godfather to him when he escaped Azkaban successfully, and yeah, that's all I can say about him. Next, I'll do Hagrid next. Hagrid, he meant well, but he definitely was a bit of a danger to Hogwarts at times, so I'll put him there. He was addicted to dangerous magical creatures. Anyway, next, Snape. Look, sure, he was bullied by Harry's father, Sirius, Lupin, and Wormtail / Pettigrew, who's not on this list. I'll say what I think he is after this. But, with Snape, sure, he got bullied, but, he took it out on Harry and Neville so unnecessarily. Sure, Harry, he reminded him of his parents, which was depressing for him, but Neville, he treated him appallingly wrong, so yeah, no, but yes, he redeemed himself, but low B, yeah. Anyway, next, I'll rank Percy next. Percy, he was a git. Sure, he redeemed himself, but he was from the Goblet of Fire to the Deathly Hallows, I think it was. He was an absolute jerk. He was an absolute jerk, and yeah, he told Ron in the Order of the Phoenix. He wrote to him since he'd graduated in or left Hogwarts in their Golden Trio's third year. But he wrote to Ron telling him not to be friends with Harry, which I thought was appalling. Now, what I said about that, what I think about him. Now, what I was going to say about Wormtail / Pettigrew was that even though he's not on this list, I'd rank him F, because he was one of Voldemort's biggest supporters. He sold Lily and James Potter, which is Harry's parents, to Voldemort to kill him, landing him at the Dursleys, who aren't on this list, but they'd all go in D, with the possible exception of Dudley. But yeah, anyway, he'd be F. End of story. Ron. Okay, I left him till last. I'm gonna put him a second. Sure, he was atrocious, appalling to Harry for a little bit in the Goblet of Fire and the Deathly Hallows, but although he had flaws. Although they had made up by this point, I'm pretty sure, I can't exactly remember. Although they made up in some ways by the Yule Ball, they were horrible dates. Yule Ball dates, which is what I said before. They were horrible friends to Hermione, and but he was a great guy. He was Harry's first friend of his age in the wizarding world. He met him on the first trip to the Hogwarts Express, on the first Hogwarts Express trip, going to Hogwarts for their first year. And yeah, I think he was great with a lot of flaws. Alright, that's all for today. I know I said I'd do a bit of a shuffle, but I felt like there's no need for it. So yeah. Anyway, that's all for today. Thank you guys all so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.